The story that's often told is of the college dropout that actually makes it. You hear about Mark Zuckerberg, you hear about Steve Jobs, how they dropped out of school. But I want to convince you in this video that actually doing higher education, continue on, is actually a good thing for your career. I'm going to actually give you some examples, and then after that, help you to see why it's such an important thing. And it's very different than what you think about in terms of the knowledge creation that you're thinking about. I'm a professor of innovation. I study this stuff for a long time, and I want to help you out with this. All right, so Larry Page and Sergey Brin are probably the most famous examples of people that were in higher education. They were working on their PhD. They essentially discovered the search engine, or a new way to do the page rank of this of searching the internet, and they invented Google and Alphabet. They were the brainchilds. Essentially, the idea behind the dissertation is the brainchild behind Google. And we could see how much you're using it probably today in terms of what it actually has done. Tim Berners-Lee actually invented the World Wide Web. He was a PhD. And these folks, if you think about telecommunications today, they're completely different in terms of how you interact with the world around us, simply by these advanced ideas that people actually have. Another person that's incredibly important that we know about is John Hennessy. So John Hennessy was the president of Stanford University, but he was a PhD in computer science. He was deeply involved with Google. And I want you to know all of these folks are very much changing the world in how we see it today, because it's often difficult to do. But outside of the tech industry, the tech industry is full of these folks, but there's also people in biotech, there's people everywhere that are doing this kind of advanced understanding to look at the world. And it's really incredibly important. You might watch my channel and you might think I'm very down on a lot of the aspects. I want you to see the truth of this. I want you to see both the pros and cons. And the reason why I started going on the downside in the past was because there was too much on the upside. But I want you to see, in terms of what is going on in the world around us, a couple of people that you might not know about, I did not know about, that are kind of interesting, right? So Angela Merkel, she was the Chancellor of Germany at one point in time. She had a PhD in physics. There's lots of people that are like this. Condoleezza Rice, I remember walking down the halls. I went to Stanford University, and in the business school, I was like walking down the business school at one point, and I walked by Condoleezza Rice's office, and I was like, mind blowing, right? At the time, I didn't realize. But yeah, she was I think she was the Secretary of State of the U.S. at one point. She was deeply involved when it was the Iraq crisis was going on many years ago. And it's really exciting to see some of these folks. A couple of other ones that you know about, right? Jane Goodall. Who doesn't know about Jane Goodall, the person that studied apes and chimpanzees and understand the primates? That knowledge, how we understand the world, how we interact with humans and animals today, was fundamentally changed from the knowledge that she created and all of the wonderful things that she created. Another one that I know of, you probably don't know of, because I study learning, Albert Bandura. He studied learning for many years, right? B.F. Skinner is another person. B.F. Skinner created the idea, essentially, of reinforcement learning and studied how pigeons worked in a lab. These people provided the foundations for how we understand computer science. OpenAI would not exist with these insightful ideas about how learning, how we actually reinforce things in the world around us. These fundamental ideas are based on the knowledge that was created by these PhDs in the lab where they were doing things that were very tedious. Another person that you likely have heard about because he's in the New York Times a lot is Paul Krugman. Um, and he writes for the New York Times. He's a really, really famous PhD in economics. And I can go through any particular field and you will notice that there are these wonderful people that are pushing the boundaries and looking at the world around us. Now, here's the challenging thing that you are not going to realize when you get into any of these particular fields and you want to do these things. It's a grind. The whole thing is a grind. It's all hard to actually do. And in the business world, I study business, and in the business world, you have to build a small business. You start off with your little hot dog stand and you build it into an empire. And the whole hot dog stand and building it into the empire is about convincing other people. It's a social process. It's making other people see that you actually have value here and figuring that out. Now that translates almost analogously and almost perfectly to the scientific world, to the PhD world, where you think the knowledge that you're creating is about creating simply new knowledge, doing the scientific method. That is not the truth. The truth is that you have to go through a social process where you convince other people that you are somehow warranted with what you're doing. You have to go through figuring out how to convince people to believe in your project. And there's different ways to get people to believe in your project, but the fundamental idea behind it is that nobody's going to believe you. And it's a social process and it's challenging and you're going to feel alone. You're going to question everything that you do. Fundamentally, everything that you do is going to look silly and ridiculous and nobody's going to understand what you're doing. Any of these things, when they first started out, these folks within their fields, they realize it's going to be a grind and it's not going to be fun. And there is so many challenges that you face, but you need to get back up and you need to do this every day. If you want to change the world, you have to be incongruent with the world as it stands right now. You have to stand up and say, yeah, you know what? There's some elements of what I'm doing that matches the world, but at the same time, I have to have this confidence inside where I am not going to match with the world. And I got to stand up and I have to do things that are going to be completely different than this over here. This stuff, this is what the world does and what they want. You have to do something a little different. And it's deeply, deeply challenging to do that. You lose yourself. You go through a lot of dark moments and you have to figure out how to love yourself regardless of what is going on around you. And you have to feel good about yourself. You have to do maintenance on yourself. You actually have to engage in this. You have to take charge of your life and engage in it and completely change how you manage your life because nobody's going to do it for you. In fact, the rest of the world is going to take advantage of you. They're going to realize that, hey, this person is a resource and let's take advantage of them. Instead, what I want you to think about is how I can forge forward and I can create my own voice and I could stand up to the world every single day. And it's going to take a lot of courage inside for you to do this. But I know you can do it. I know you can. You could be like all of these people that are here doing these amazing things like Sergey Brin and Condoleezza Rice and Paul Krugman and all these people that are household names today. You simply have to figure out your voice and figure out how you're going to do that. And you're not going to let anybody push you around. You're going to have that confidence. You're going to listen to what they're saying, what the audience says, but at the same time, you're going to have that confidence where you're going to walk forward and feel that you are empowered at any given moment. All right, hopefully this helps you out. And hopefully I don't persuade you one way or the other. I just want you to live a happy and healthy life. All right, take care. Have a wonderful day. Bye. Oh, by the way, if you haven't gone to the Reciprocity Project, please go do that. All right, take care.